There are three kinds of transformation. The first one is called a translation. A translation is like a slide, and you can remember that because the letters SL are in translation and slide. And what that means is you're going to take a shape and you're going to slide it across your graph. You can slide it to the right, you can slide it down, you can slide it up. You can slide it in two directions, so you can go to the right and then down. So when you slide, you're going to move things all around. The next type of transformation we have is something that we call a reflection. A reflection is known as a flip. And again, you can see that because there's an FL in reflection and there's an FL in flip. Now when you reflect something, what you're going to do is you're going to take that shape and you're actually going to flip it over kind of like you're turning the pages of a book. Let me show you. We're going to flip this across. Okay? So this would be if I took this shape, this green shape right here, and just flipped it over. Now, when you flip things, you're going to have to flip them in relation to an axis. So you want to imagine that this line right here is where you're flipping it over. So you're going to take it and just flip it directly over that axis. And the last type of transformation we have is something we call a rotation. And a rotation is also known as a turn. Okay, and again, there are two ways to show a rotation. One is just rotating the shape itself, but what we're going to be doing is we're going to be rotating shapes around the axis, the origin here. So let me show you. If I were to take this shape and rotate it or turn it, I would just do one of these kinds of things. Okay? But what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to rotate this shape based on the axis. Oops. So I might take this shape, but if I wanted to rotate it, it would end up down here, but it would also end up rotating 90 degrees. So I'm going to take that whole shape and rotate it like this. Today we're going to just talk about graphing translations. So out of all three transformations, we're going to talk about just the translations right now. And remember, translations are our slide. So the way you slide or translate a shape is you have to translate every single point of that shape. So here we have a triangle. The coordinates for D are -2, -3, so I went over 2 and down 3. The letter E is right here at -3, 1, so -3 and then up 1. And my coordinates for F are at -6, -1. Now what I want to do is I want to be able to translate this shape, and I want to translate it 8 units to the right. What that means is I'm going to take each point on this shape and move it 8 units to the right. So we'll start with D. If this is where it starts, to move it 8 units, I'm going to just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm counting to the right because it tells me to move it 8 units to the right. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to label that new point. It's still D, but I put a little kind of like an apostrophe next to it. We call it D prime. And what we're also going to want to do is we're going to want to write these new coordinates. So my new D is now located at 6, -3. Okay, and now let's do the same thing for E. So we're going to take E and move it 8 units to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we're going to label it. And again, the new coordinates for E are going to be at 5, 1. And finally, we'll move F. And F is going to move 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we label it. And that's at +2, -1. So +2, -1. And the last thing that I need to do is I need to connect all these together to show my new shape. And that's how you translate a shape. Now, it's also possible that you might be asked to translate a shape 2 times. Okay, in this case, these are all of our original coordinates here. It says translate triangle 5 units to the left and 3 units down. When you're asked to do that, you're actually going to have 2 different translations. Okay, so what we're going to do is we'll start moving this 5 units to the left. That's where we're going to start. So I'm going to take each point, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is -2, +5. And then I'm going to move K, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And again, you put that little line next to it so you know that's a moved shape, and that's going to be at 1, 4. And finally, we'll move L. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's going to be at 0. Oops, sorry about that. 0, -1. All right, so that was my first set of translations. Let me draw this shape in here so we can see it. Okay, now we have to do the second translation. And the second translation here says now we want to go 3 units down. So I'm done with this shape right here. I'm not going to use this shape anymore. We're done with that one. What we want to do is take the shape we translated, this shape over here, and now we're going to move it down. We're only going to move it down 3 units. So I'm going to take this point, 1, 2, 3. And this time when I label it, I'm going to put 2 little lines next to the J, because now we've moved it 2 times. And my new coordinate for that, -2, +2. And now I'm going to move K, and again, 3 units down, 1, 2, 3. And that's over 1, up 1. And finally, we'll move L. 1, 2, 3. Oops, I never labeled L before. This is the first time I moved L. This is the second time I moved L. And that's at 0, -4. And finally, the last thing I need to do is just connect all these together to make my new shape. And that's how you translate shapes. Translations are like slides. You just slide every single point and you follow your directions.